Serving food. First, think about the sink that you have available to you. If it is a sink that is your kitchen sink or a sink that's never used for toileting or diapering, it's considered clean. However, if you have a classroom that has shared purpose for the sink, meaning you're diapering in that classroom, toileting in that classroom, and you're having to prepare food or serve food, then it is considered something that might be an unclean sink. So you need to make it clean before you do anything with food. And to do that, you would need to disinfect your sink. So after you either have a sink that is not used for toileting and diapering and is already considered clean, or if you do have a sink that has other purposes and you have disinfected it, then you can move on to the second step, which is sanitizing your food surfaces. So just making sure that anything that you're going to be using for your food preparation or your food service is sanitized. Then the next step would be to make sure that you wash your hands, and washing your hands at a clean sink, and making sure that that's done, like I said, either in the kitchen or at a sink that's been disinfected, not in the bathroom sink. Because we do not want you touching food with your bare hands, you need to pick a barrier. You have several to choose from, and barriers, when I talk about it, are utensils, so meaning a spoon. You can use a scoop or a measuring cup, tongs, or you can use gloves. So some type of barrier that you would select so that, like I said, your bare hands are not touching food. The next thing to think about is keeping your barrier sanitary. So what I mean by that is either keeping it in the serving bowl at all times or on the serving platter, or if you can't do that or don't choose to do that, then you would place the utensil or the barrier on a clean space, either provided with a clean paper towel, so I could lay my items here to keep them more sanitary. The other choice you could use would be a clean plate. You could put that there, or in a clean bowl, just somewhere that you can always keep your utensils more sanitary. Typically, programs use food service gloves, and which is great. However, other programs sometimes use other types of gloves, and other types of gloves would be vinyl, which I have here, or some programs also may use latex gloves. Just note that latex would be something that you want to make sure no one has an allergy to latex, and especially if they have powder inside, then that is another place that has even more latex and could get on your food or on the surfaces that you're preparing food. So those would not be recommended to use. But you could use vinyl, powder-free though, once again, just so that you're not getting that powder anywhere, so vinyl or food service gloves. Another thing I see are people using their food service gloves or their gloves used for food service to be touching the outside of containers such as ketchup or bottles of syrup, the outside of serving bowls, the outside of bags of food, plastic bags, and that's not recommended because those surfaces have been touched by other people and therefore could contaminate the surface of the gloves. So if I were to be serving buns, then I would not need gloves on at this time because I'm rearranging the bag, I'm touching the bag, and like I said before, we don't know where this bag has been. So I would undo the twist tie and open the bag. And so they're easily able to get out of the bag, and therefore I can either take a tongs and I can get out the bun and give that to a child or put it on a serving platter or something. The other choice would be that I could take and put my gloves on, and then that's when I would directly touch the buns with my gloved hands. If I was making barbecues, I could put the hamburger on the buns and then put that on my serving tray. And once I've done that, then this is when I'd remove my gloves and take those off and throw them away now that I'm done touching food. Once you take the gloves off, you need to throw them away, and you need to have a fresh or a clean pair of gloves each time you need to go make another piece of toast or to do something else dealing with food. Next, I want you to think about things if you're going to be cutting food. So if you're going to be cutting food, first of all, is it a fresh fruit or vegetable? If it is, such as a banana, then what is recommended is for you to rinse that in cold water in a clean sink to remove those contaminants, to try to get off all the chemicals or the contaminants on there before you would give that to a child. Just because they would be touching the peeling and then therefore they could get that in their hands. Or even if you cut with your knife through it, then you're introducing all those germs or the chemicals onto the fruit that they are eating. So that's why it's important to wash all fresh fruits and vegetables before you serve them to children. So in this case, if I was serving it to an older child, then I would wash it off, but then I could give them the whole banana, or I could cut it in half and give them half a banana for them to also learn the self-help skills of getting the peeling off. But if I was serving that to an infant or toddler, then that's different. I'm going to need to cut it up, so I'm going to need to remove the peeling. So when you would do that, what I would need is somewhere to place the banana. Either on a plate is a great place, or you could use a clean paper towel as well. But whatever cutting utensils you're using, please remember that's a safety hazard, and you want to make sure that those are always out of the reach of children so that they can't be harmed by them. So then let's go back to taking the peeling off. So in this case, I would not need to wash the banana because I'm taking the peeling off anyway. So in that case, obviously I peel the banana and try just not to try to do this in the most sanitary way you can. Getting the peeling off and dropping that onto the plate surface. And then I could dispose of the peeling into the garbage. And then I would go wash my hands because I would have that contaminant on my hands, so I'll go wash my hands. Okay, I've washed my hands, so now I can put my food service gloves on, so I'm not touching the food directly. And then this is where I can handle the banana here. And with bananas or anything round, it's just really important to make sure that you do make sure it's not in a round piece. We always want to cut up food, so 1/2 inch for toddlers, 1/4 inch for infants. But you also, like I said, you want to make sure if it's round, even though it might be cut up in pieces in that diameter, it still would be round and they could choke on it. So you just want to make sure that you cut it so that it's lengthwise. And you can do that on your plate here. And then this is where I could pick it up, and I either can, keep continuing onto the plate itself to cut it if you want to do it that way, or if you want to put it in a serving bowl, this would be a time that's easy to do. And then you just want to cut the pieces right into the serving bowl. And then after you've done your cutting, then you want to take off your gloves because you don't need these on anymore. I'm not directly touching food. And then I would throw those away in my garbage. And then the other thing to remember is if you do have them in a bowl, or you have prepared this and you're not going to eat them right away or have children eat them right away, then it's just recommended to cover them. And you can use a paper towel, you can use tin foil, you can use plastic wrap. And the reason for covering it obviously is to keep it more sanitary, just from little fingers going into it and checking it out. If people cough or sneeze, then that is keeping those germs from getting onto the food. And it's really important, so if it's even on the countertop, you would cover it. If it's on the table, keep it covered when you're not using it. And also if you prepare it in your kitchen and you're transporting it to another classroom, that's another time that's very important for you to keep it covered. Okay, so when it's time to serve, I can take my serving spoon and I can lift up the corner here and get out the bananas that I need and place those in a serving bowl and give those to to the child. And then I can return either the spoon to my clean surface, or I can put it over here in the serving bowl and recover it until I need it next.